Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of our Tamiya Nashorn, where we do all the weathering on the kit. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little sag in the rubber band tracks because they are just a little bit too straight. These tracks shouldn't be sagging too much, but it's just way too straight right now. So we're going to take our super glue with the super fine tip on it, and up inside there we're just going to put a little touch just past where the road wheel would go, and then putting a tiny bit on the inside as well there. And then what you're going to do, let the track come down, take something round and just push it up inside there. If you want to, you can use like a pin or anything just while it's drying. And it's going to be a little bit deformed right now because you're pushing a lot farther down on it, but once the glue sets up and you pull the pin out of there, it'll snap back into shape a little bit more. See if it's starting to. And then we also want to put just a touch up in there and touch up on this side too. Not too much, but just enough so you know it's going to stick. Using the pin again. Side may have needed a second more to dry. And you can just hold it just like this. And let that sit for a few minutes, and then you can come back and we'll take a look at it. Now you can see how there's just a slight little bit of sag in these tracks right here. I actually ended up using a little kicker to hold it down quicker, which is the accelerator for super glue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little dry brushing again, highlight some of the scratches and things that we want to. We're going to start off using NATO Black. And typical dry brushing, dip the paint in there, and you want to just take off as much as you possibly can on like a paper towel. I'll just kind of show you what to be looking for. What I'm going to try now is I'm taking some artist oil, some raw sienna, burnt umber, and a little yellow ochre, and I've kind of blended them together on a little strip of plastic. And by doing this, we're going to get different colors of browns and yellows to mix in this. So I've dipped the brush in a little bit across the spectrum on it, and just adding just a touch of mineral spirits. We're going to go in there and start dirtying up this the bottom here. I'm going to try to get all the tracks and then I start to work it, and I'm also using a very stiff brush on this as well, and by doing that you'll start to see different colors pop up, but they'll all start to blend as we start to push it into the model. We want to go back there and blend a lot of this color into it. If you need to, you can always add a little bit more of the thinner onto it. And now some of the darker color. I'm going to go around and just do all of the track. In fact, now that the track is pulled down like that, even get in here, because the track horns would certainly be filthy. Go up inside here on the track horns. Basically doing the entire bottom down here, everything, you know, except the hull itself. the top of the hull. The inside of the hull we still want to get as dirty as possible, looking like it's gone through lots of mud and debris. And as you can see, it's starting to dry a little bit in there. So just dip a touch more into your thinner. You can see how that right away starts to blend the color. And you want it blended, but not so badly that it all just turns into one color. And you can always go over later on with a darker color as well. Now, when it comes to the wheels themselves, we don't want to go crazy on it because we do want to show that they're still wheels. So we're gonna kind of just spin this around and get them dirty as they would as if they were rolling through the mud here. And it's almost like stippling it on because the brush is so hard. And hitting it with the thinner every once in a while, that'll blend some of it together. The other nice thing about the oil colors is they do have a little bit of the shine to it to give it a look of that the mud is fresh. Now it will dry over time, but it still should have a slight shine to it. So I'm not going to cake it on super bad, but. And then you can kind of, once you've got it thinned a bit, you can kind of even go up a little bit on the side skirts where paint would have been flecking off. I mean, mud would be flicking off on it. Of course, we're going to do the whole front of those tracks too. So this is where we're at right now. We're going to let this dry a little bit, and then we'll come back and put a second coat on it. Okay, now that that is kind of set up for a little while, it's been about a half an hour kind of letting it dry out. We're taking just some of the lighter color only, and we're just going to start slapping that in more towards the top. And what that's going to simulate is as dirt dries, it's going to dry a little quicker up on top because it's not getting as wet. So you're going to see more of a lighter color start to pop out. And that yellow ochre, and you just want to keep popping it into it there. Okay, now we're going to let that dry for a little while. I've let the oil colors dry overnight, and you see they flattened out a little bit, but they still have some shiny, grungy area. And now I'm going to use some Vallejo pigments, and mixing with a little rubbing alcohol as a fixing agent, we're going to start putting some drier mud across the top. Now I know it looks wet when you start off right here, but the nice thing about the alcohol is it'll completely evaporate and it'll leave just the dry pigment left behind. We're going to just kind of work it into all the little areas, mainly towards the top, and then we'll also put a little bit on the tops of the tracks and stuff, because this is going to represent a vehicle that's muddy and dirty, but that's been sitting for a while, so the mud is starting to dry and is, you know, caked up a little bit inside, but not ridiculously amount. Once again, using the Vallejo pigments of burnt umber and natural sienna. We're using alcohol as a fixing agent again, and we're going to go over some of the road wheels, the drive sprocket, and get a little bit more into the tracks themselves. Now, the nice thing about that, once, like I said, the alcohol dries, you can actually use a dry brush and knock off any of the excess. So if you think there's too much on there, it's very easy. Just let it fully dry, and then you can knock it down. I'm also using that same amount of pigment to go over and start doing all the cracks and nooks and crannies on the actual vehicle itself on the top, but not going too crazy with it. And we're also going to work into the fighting compartment as well, making it dirty as if men had been walking in there and dirt and dust is accumulating inside. Okay, one more thing we're going to do to it now too is we're taking a little extra alcohol and mixing kind of a slurry, but very, very thin down with the Vallejo pigments. And using an old toothbrush, we're going to just flick the back. And it's just going to leave small amounts of the mud build up. And as that dries, you can see right away how the alcohol dries really quickly and then starts to leave behind some of the pigment on it. And then you can actually even do partially up the side here where the tracks would have kicked up some. Not super heavy right there. And if you don't like, if you want it to be a little thicker, just put a little extra of the pigment actually into the alcohol mixture. And one more thing we're going to want to do here is just around the drive sprocket, taking just a number 2 pencil. Just lightly nicking up some of the teeth here to give it a kind of a worn metallic look, but we don't want a bright silver. You want to have a little bit of metallic to it, but still look like it's been beat up and worn. And you could actually even do the tops of some of the guide horns, things like that, but that's totally up to you. And that's the main point about doing models like this, is do it the way you want to do it. A lot of people will sometimes say, well, why do you not use this, or why do you use this? And it's just a particular preference of mine. I like, I don't like to go overdone with weathering. Some people, I think, put way too much rust and dirt and debris on a vehicle as if it's been sitting in a field for 20 years. A vehicle that's being constantly used is not going to rust. The crew does take care of their stuff even in a combat situation, because that's the thing that's keeping them alive. And tracks, if there was any rust on a track, as soon as you turn the vehicle on and drive it over dirt or gravel, all that rust is coming right off. So I don't like to over rust stuff. Just make it the way you want to do it, and that's the important part about modeling. Be happy with what you're doing with it. One last thing I decided to do on this model was I did dry brush the wheels with just a touch of NATO black. Not completely, you can still see quite a bit of mud on there, but it kind of highlighted the tires, the rubber part of the tire, to make it look a little better. Thank you for watching our video, and please stay tuned because we have more coming.